I don't know, a unique question, but your sort of inspiration behind just listening to your recent podcast. I have an undergrad in Bible teaching and master's in Bible exposition, but recently I feel like the Lord has laid on my heart to get a Ph.D. in church history, I think specifically historical theology. And I'm not sure if that's wise or if that's foolish, but I wanted to get your perspective just for the sake of schools that I'm looking at. I'm just concerned that, am I going to get a good education or not? And just your perspective on if you were going to get a degree, a church history degree, like where would you go? What, like, would you focus on the, I guess, is there a specific teacher you would focus on, and just getting your perspective on it?
Well, a couple things. Technically, the program I'm in is in church history. Technically, even though it's very a technical aspect of church history, textual criticism, and CBGM and stuff like that. But I guess the real question that I have would be, what do you want to do with it? What reason? Because, I mean, partly because if you want to teach and you want to be a part of the system as it exists right now. Now, the system may not be in existence for much longer, to be honest with you. Great. I mean, I think there's massive changes in education coming. I mean, I just discovered yesterday, I'm not sure if I didn't tell Rich this either, the Mormons are not having their general conference in October again. They're going to do it all virtually. And BYU may not even meet this fall. May not even have in-person classes. That's going to, if that happens generally, that's going to have a huge impact on institutions, seminaries, all sorts of things like that. I can see major changes coming, and if major changes happen in our society, as the past number of months would seem to indicate they are, that could totally change not only how education is done, but who can teach, what you can teach, the whole nine yards. So I have a feeling, my theory would be, that the person who wants to teach and edify the body first and foremost over the next 30 years is going to be trained and prepared differently than people have been for a long, long time. So I can't just simply go, well, you know, in the olden days, you know, this program here was great and that program there was great, so on and so forth. I think we have to recognize that big box seminary standard, go become a professor someplace, live in a nice little house off campus, go play softball with the students type thing. That's probably not going to be the reality that we're going to be facing in our society over the next number of decades. That's something tells me that if you want to teach church history, and obviously I believe that's a vitally important subject to be teaching, you might actually be itinerant. You might actually be doing it on the dark web. You might be doing it in such a way that your lessons are being passed around at coffee houses on jump drives without hopefully anybody seeing. You may have to be very, very different in your approach than people were 20 years ago. I would like to be wrong about that. Wouldn't we all like to see the normal return? Well, I just don't see that that's a possibility. So that can impact what you choose to do as far as where you go, because you can get a fantastic education today without uprooting yourself and indebting yourself to $120,000. That was not possible 15 years ago. It is possible now. Now, obviously, that requires a tremendous amount of dedication and discipline and things along those lines, but it can be done if what you want to do is to be able to teach in the church more so than fitting into the old style, fight your way up through the adjunct, associate, full tenure, blah, 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 blah. All that, I think, is falling apart. I honestly think that's coming apart at the seams. And I just don't think that the future's going to be able to sustain that kind of thing. So those are issues that you have to put together, because almost all the seminaries have put together online components with a minimal amount of residency. And I think, especially with what has just happened, that's going to become more and more the case. And European seminaries, European universities likewise have research-only PhDs where you don't have residency at all. You need to go a few times to meet with professors and things like that, but so many, if you have a good library near you, I have Arizona State University nearby, and I've got Phoenix Seminary nearby. And if you've got good libraries nearby you, and so much information is now fully digitized and able to be accessed in that way as well. So, if you've got a good doctorvater, a good doctoral advisor who can really put the whip to you and make you do that type of thing, you can do that without uprooting your family and moving off someplace. That can be done. So really depends on what you want to do, how long you want to take to do it, and really what your ultimate goal is. Because I've always told people, if you're going to do something along those lines on the doctoral level, then for me, I've benefited from reading people's dissertations when I know that I was only one of maybe 10 people in the world that ever did. Okay, so there is room for that in the really, really super, super, super technical thing. But if there's some way to make your doctoral work be edifying and blessing to a larger audience, so minimally doing it in such a way that you always have in the back of your mind, this is going to become a book someday that real people in the pew are going to be able to read and going to be able to help them. That's something I always kept in mind. I always wanted my education, and I can point you to the chapters in various of my books that came out of that kind of stuff. That's how I made that work, in essence. So, the real question is, what's the motivation? Where do you want to do it? And then that's going to determine, are you going to make application in Europe? Are you going to, is there someplace close by? How much online? How much you're willing to spend? Do you want to have take out loans? There's just all sorts of things. It depends upon, are you married? Do you have kids? Where are they in life? There's a million different things there. You talk with your elders, you talk with, because I assume you're involved in a church. What is this going to involve in regards to your ministry within the church? Can it be something that can add to and benefit your ministry within the church? These are all things that I think are sort of important.
Yeah, I agree. I think originally when I spoke with my master's advisor, I did want to actually pursue a doctorate in order to be a professor, really engage in the academic community.
Right.
But I think I am married. My wife has sort of shifted my perspective to maybe doing this more YouTube video-wise, creating content lessons through that means, so that it could generate more viewership. But also at the same time, I've talked with my church and I've talked with my pastor about partnering with them about doing it through them as well. And ultimately, my interest is in the ante-Nicene fathers and their perspective on creation, evolution, just
right.
That conversation. And just because I do love apologetics as well, and just so many people I see are, it's just a difficult struggle. As a teacher, I see my students accepting or rejecting, and I'm I just want to be able to know, okay, what did the church teach, and specifically that creation, evolution topic. So I don't know. That's sort of what got my interest peaked a lot, was doing that area.
Okay. All right, Charlie. Well, hopefully my thoughts were helpful to you, and
yeah, they were,
because there's a lot of things to take into consideration on something like that. So, thank you for calling today.
You.
All right.
Yeah.
God bless.